talk about fears. Let's talk about love. Yeah, I got fears, but I ain't got no love.
What I would do in this case, obviously, is start with victimology. You have a 5-year-old girl. One of the first things that stood out to me, and let me preface this by saying anything that I say here is just my opinion, like off the cuff from what I've researched. I didn't investigate this, and I'm not investigating this. This is just off of the research that I did. One of the first things that struck me was her name. Not just Summer Wells. It was Summer Moon Utah Wells. That struck me. Not a red flag, just made me feel a certain kind of way. I did look at the house. An overview, satellite imagery. Find it very secluded to me. Very rural property. But back to victimology. So you have a 5-year-old. She is not going to be what you considered a high risk. But I did read that the police had been called to that residence at least twice. Once a while ago, where the father, I believe his name was Don Wells, was a fugitive from justice. I'm not sure what the charges were that he was fleeing from, but this was years ago, maybe even 10, 20 years ago that I saw. A more recent one, he had a PFA put against him by his wife and the little girl's mother about being intoxicated. I mean, that is a red flag to me. And a gun. Could it mean nothing? Absolutely. The time of day. This happened around 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock. Still daylight out in a rural area. To me, it is possible that she was abducted. However, the possibility shrinks because of certain things. 1, the time of day. 2, the location of being rural. Any vehicle that would come up there, you would notice, you would see. Now, I read a report that, or not cadaver dogs, I'm sorry, but scent dogs picked up her scent from the house through a dog trail out to the main road. That comes from the father. I don't have any verification whether that's true or not. But some things stick out to me, and I wrote them down, okay? One of the things is the father saying, I will see her in the resurrection. Now, that was just a short sentence out of a long quote, but still, that struck me. Another thing is both the mom and the dad both immediately believed that she was kidnapped. To me, that could be two things. It could be that it is a well-rehearsed story, and they've both come up with the kidnapping theory to explain away their nefarious deeds. Not saying that happened, just saying that's a possibility. Or that's what they really think, and that's possible too. There have been other abductions, okay? You look at, let's say, Elizabeth Smart, okay, when she was abducted. It was at night. I believe the offender, I can't remember his name, crawled through the window. I think he cut the screen, went in and abducted her and held a knife to her throat and said, hey, you scream, I'm going to kill your whole family. And ended up abducting her. She survived, and everything worked out. But it was an abduction at night. There have been abductions during the day, absolutely. But most of them are in maybe a street setting where child trafficking is involved. I had a girl that, her name was Shannon. I met her probably 5 years ago. She reached out to me. Her young daughter, who was about 5 years old, I believe, was abducted from her house and found murdered. And I'm sorry, I was just thinking about that again. How horrible. Because the only thing they found originally was her underwear, the little girl's underwear out in the front yard. As a parent, to think about that is horrendous. But again, another abduction by a stranger at night. They eventually caught him. He was a neighbor, and he was convicted and sentenced. The little girl was found, and she was murdered. But again, at night, by a stranger. So, when I think about this case, I think about the time of day. I think about the seclusion of the 11 acres that they own there. What's the probability that someone's going to drive up there or drive close to there, hide in the woods, wait for their opportunity to go to the basement and abduct her with 3 kids in that house? And not just kids, older than her. So, I mean, they certainly would... Nope. I have a hard time with that. Okay? Very hard time. Obviously, I want to know about that basement and whether it had an egress. You know, she came in upstairs, walked downstairs to the basement, and go out. I believe it would have to. Okay? For this story to make any sense, it would have to have that. And somebody lying in wait to come in. But boy, I don't know, okay? Mom, from an interview that I saw, she was a carnival worker. Doesn't bother me, but I wrote it down. Maybe because what that does is... And I don't know how long ago she had worked with the carny, but that might raise the victimology level of a summer, depending if they had people that were coming around. I mean, that's where you have to start. You start with the family, obviously everybody that's there, and then their associates, and go out. A stranger abduction. It has happened. If somebody knew that area and, was infatuated with her and stalked her, it's possible. It's possible, but again, I don't think that's probable. From what I read, there is no evidence of an abduction. So where did she go? Well, I would only hurt the case if I was to speculate. Okay, so I will not do that. But what I will say is you have to look at the parents. Everybody knows that, okay? I'm not saying anything that none of you know or don't know. But what's the dad's alibi? He was at work, supposedly, okay? You have to look into an accident of any sort. You have to look into Summer's medical history. You have to look at the family's religion. People have done a lot of crazy things for religion, okay? You have to tear that apart. You have to interview all their friends, all their relatives, everything.